And I'm so glad to welcome to the set right now Angela Williams from Voice Today. God bless you, Angela. We're so glad to have you back. And let's talk about our colors. Why do you wear white when you talk about your movement?
I get really excited when I put on white because to me, white stands for the innocence that I'm fighting for, to be protected and to be preserved. There was a joke this week. I was heading to a radio interview and I had white on, and Tom said, well, you know they can't see you. I said, well, white is my rally cry. So it makes me feel good to know that I'm on mission when I have my white on.
That's right. And I've decided that I'm wearing red and black when I talk about it, because you've been to Bulgaria.
Yes.
You've helped us there to spread the word of the awareness program. You really kind of helped us get launched off there with the materials that we need to start talking about it in Bulgaria. And so I wear black because of the darkness that we are walking in that horrible, horrible evil that's going on there. And then, of course, red is the blood of Jesus. And so Jesus is the answer. He is the ultimate answer for everything. Angela, tell us what's going on with Voice Today, and how are you feeling about what God has directed you to do?
I am so excited because you said earlier that this is the time, and I truly believe that this is the season and this is the time that God has prepared for such a time as this,
right,
for His church, for His people to stand up with courage and to face the issue of child sexual abuse. We are just busting at the seams at Voice Today. I'm so excited. Every day we get more and more encouragement, more and more volunteers, more and more people stepping forward saying, I want to help. And we are still a full volunteer organization and seeking resources to grow. So it's so important. But we're getting more interviews, more opportunities. We are able to produce more and more resources, which we're going to talk about tonight.
Right.
Sort of phase 2 of the Voice movement is taking place now, and that is providing our children's programs to really put tools in parents' hands so they have the tools to begin these very tough conversations. You know, it's very uncomfortable for a lot of adults to talk to their children about sexual abuse, but we want to present it in a way that's going to be healthy, that's going to be godly. We want to present this conversation in a way that you're really talking about personal boundaries, you're talking about personal power, you're talking about how to respect your body and how to force others to respect your body.
That's
so
good.
These are really good messages, and they're good messages that children need to be taught to be good adults, to have good boundaries. So we never want to steal a child's innocence, but we want to give the education needed so children can respond to the risk of sexual abuse in their life.
Right. And someone at home may say, because they don't know maybe, but they'll say, well, I don't need to talk to my child about that because it would never happen, not in our family, not in my extended family. It will never happen, but we don't know that, do we?
That is that sense of arrogance, that it's just not going to happen to me, not in my home, not on my street, not in my church. And that sense of arrogance and almost ignorance is what puts a child at risk.
Yes.
Because the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, says that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before they're 18 years old. Only 1 in 10 will ever tell, and 90% of that abuse is by someone that they know, love, and trust. Now, I know when I was a mother, and I'm sure you're the same way, we were raised to be afraid of what? Stranger danger. It's that stranger in the park in the trench coat that's the risk to our child, when indeed sometimes it's the ones that the children love and trust the most that are the most danger. So that's the frightening part. So if you think it won't happen, then what you're really saying is that that you're not going to be courageous and vigilant in protecting your child. And that's what's caused this epidemic to continue to grow, is just a denial. And Voice Today just wants to provide the coaching, the education, sometimes the courage needed to face this issue head on. And together we can predict and we can prevent child sexual abuse. We just have to be educated, and we have to understand that it is not a child's responsibility to disclose. It is we adults, our responsibility to protect that child. Because when they disclose, it's too late. The trauma is done.
It's already been done.
And I want to talk talk because I know that you work so hard in the area of human trafficking, you and Tina both in Bulgaria, and I really want our viewers to understand that there is a link between that child that is sexually abused at 4, 5, and 6, and that child that runs away to try to find a better life, maybe love, maybe affirmation, and when they get to the streets, we know what they're met with.
Right.
Oftentimes, they're met with a pimp that is going to groom them into prostitution. And once they get in that trap, they're in a prison that's very difficult to break out of.
That's right. And that person comes along in their life, and like they say, those runaways, they are really in a dangerous situation. And I pray if there's any teenagers watching, or you may be 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, let me tell you, if you run away from home, you are really running away from where there's someone safe, there's a person that's safe there. But if you do run away because you're fearful at home, then go to your church or find a safe. How do we tell them to find a safe person?
Well, sometimes the safe person is not in their home. You know, my situation, my testimony is that my stepfather was my abuser, and I was sexually abused for 14 years. So I didn't have anyone safe in my home because my mother just faced it with denial. So I encourage young folks to really look for a teacher, maybe a youth pastor, a neighbor, another family member to tell what is happening and what is going on. And you adults, I want to tell you that it is your responsibility when a child discloses to you to get that child help and to help that child find a safe place to grow up.
That's right. That's so very important because like you said, maybe something has happened, but that child has not disclosed it, not to you, because maybe you would say, well, I don't believe that. You're just lying, or you're just making up something. You just want attention or something of that
I can
sort.
tell you that we have talked now at Voice Today with thousands of survivors of child sexual abuse, and I can count on one hand how many disclosures were met with compassion, how many disclosures were met with an adult that was willing to step in, to intervene, to fight for justice, to hold that perpetrator accountable. I can count on one hand, and that's very disturbing to me.
It is.
I think that our society, when people are faced with this issue, there is so much fear, and there is so much focus on, the family's reputation and what will happen next. And perhaps it's someone that they love that may be facing, it is a crime. It is a prosecutable crime, so maybe facing prison time. So it's almost they run to what's easy, which is to cover it up and hide it, instead of having the courage to do what is right. And what is right is to hold that perpetrator accountable. And there is, I think, opportunity for restoration. I think there's opportunity for redemption. But like anyone that commits a crime, you have to do the time. You have to be punished.
Angela's got so many resources, and she's going to be talking here for a long while, but just so that we'll start talking about it, if you have a question, if what she has said has sparked something inside of you and you thought, maybe I ought to do that. She has the resources for you to have that conversation, like she said. So we're going to talk about it. It's voicetoday.org. Is that still the right website? Voicetoday.org. And when we start talking about voice, it's because that the children don't have a voice. They don't have a voice. And if they do speak, like you said, no one wants to believe them. We have to change that.
Well, we teach our children to respect authority. We teach them to really be seen and not be heard. So their voice is taken, and especially if they're sexually abused. There's an element of shame and an element of guilt, an element of responsibility that comes over that child, and they feel very responsible for the abuse. Oftentimes the perpetrator will groom the child. And really, one of the, I think, most popular ways of grooming a child is with threats, with fear. I'm going to hurt you. I'm going to hurt your family members, your brother, your sister, your grandmother. So that child is really just, by sheer fear, silenced, and they don't say anything. So there's just so much that we can do as adults to give a child a voice. There's so much that we can do to empower children. And really, there's another element of this too, and that's the survivor that really doesn't want to face their own abuse. And they may just be so afraid to talk about it, so afraid of the triggers that may be brought up in their own life. So we've got to get those survivors healed so that they can be better parents and better caregivers of the children and of the next generation.
Because it's handed down.
It's a generational
It's a
curse.
generational curse, and if it's not stopped and healing, that inner healing, that inner
Only
healing
through
that's
faith in
so
Jesus Christ.
very important for them to receive that peace of the Lord. And you see this happening in so many situations.
We're not going to talk about it a whole lot tonight, but in conjunction with our prevention programs, Voice Today does have healing and restoration programs. And those are in the form of healing workshops, they're in the forms of support groups, they're in the forms of retreats for survivors.
Right.
We have many resources, as you said, at voicetoday.org. So there's opportunities to begin to break your silence, begin to deal with that wounded little boy or that wounded little girl that was hurt and violated by child sexual abuse, and then get the courage to help us face this issue. We want to empower survivors to have a platform to help us protect the next generation of children.
That's right. And everyone that you bring the program to, then you are encouraging them to go into their circle.
Yes.
And then it just continues that way.
We want it to be a virus. We
There
want this
you
to
go.
be absolutely viral.
There you go. That's a good way to put it. And you are available to go to churches and women's group, anywhere.
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 We will teach, we will preach on the street corner if somebody's going to listen.
Right.
I have gone to workshops with thousands and I've gone to workshops with one. And I am just as tickled because I know that they will leave there equipped to protect a child.
Amen.
And one person trained can impact 10 children in their lives.
Isn't that great?